There's a lot going on. Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to talk Ship of Destiny, and it's a tricky one to talk about without going into spoilers, and I am going to try, but I think one of the most important things for me to mention off the bat is that Ship of Destiny is a very confronting novel. Not only are we continuing the story of the characters we were introduced to in these first two books, we're actually going to see a lot of the themes that we've seen so far really brought to the fore. And that means we're going to see a lot of the violence toward women particularly, and a lot of the sexual violence in general. So there is a lot of content warning, trigger warning, just warnings in general around Ship of Destiny. And there is a lot of other things that go on. It does tend to be the headline for a lot of readers, that particular storyline. There are politics happening in Bingtown and Jamalia and Chelsea that have all become very entangled, have all become very confusing, and it's very, very easy to just not grasp who's plotting what against whom, and to completely finish reading the series and still not have got that clear in your own head. Don't worry, you aren't alone. And it took me several reads to really get a grip on what actually was happening at any given moment. So don't worry if that kind of went whoop, it's okay. There are plenty of other things that go on. And those things are related to the characters that we met at the very beginning in our prologue chapter of Ship of Magic. It relates to the theories that you might hold for Elderlings. It relates to things I really kind of can't talk to you about without spoiling other things. There's a lot happening. Any more than what I've just told you, we're heading into spoiler territory, which I kind of don't want to do. What I really want to do is give new readers a broad enough overview that if you're thinking about going into this, you can get a sense of whether or not it's worth your time. So I'm going to say it will be a challenge to read. It will evoke an emotional response from you. I think they're worth the challenge of reading. So far in the series, there has been discussion of sexual violence and violence against women, talked about off-page. It's happened to somebody somewhere else. It's happened to characters in their pasts. It's happened in hindsight. It's never very present, but it's slowly becoming more present. And there is a point in the Mad Ship where one of our characters is assaulted off page, but we are aware that it is going to happen, and when after the event we are aware that it has happened, and we begin to see the trauma that that character is experiencing. So already there's been some content in the trilogy that is emotionally charged, and that doesn't go away. It comes even more to the forefront in Ship of Destiny. If you are someone who has been through these traumatic events, please know that Robin Hobb in no way is glorifying this. There is never any graphic instances of this. It's upsetting because it's emotional, and you're getting emotional beats. And there is a time in the book where a point of view character is assaulted, and it is on page, which is incredibly traumatizing to read for those who have been through it. I'm one of them, and it was difficult. I want to talk about it as vaguely as I can because I do think it's important. It's important on a number of levels for characters. It's important on a number of levels because of the theme work that's being built on, and it's important because of what the storyline is trying to change. It also brings to the forefront how difficult it is for people who have had these things happen to them, how difficult it is to talk about, and how non-supportive people around them can be, and not deliberately, but often non-thinkingly in their reactions. And that has been a great part of what has been upsetting to a number of readers. One of the other issues that comes from this particular scenario in Ship of Destiny is the fallout from that, in that the person who perpetrates this horrific act doesn't appear to be punished in the way a lot of stories do to somebody who's been bad to a main character. Quite often that villain is horrifically dealt to in some way, some kind of just reward, as it were, for their behaviour. And that again can be very upsetting, because after having gone through that with our character, you want that betrayal to be avenged. Part of, I think, the themes in the story is around the fact that that rarely happens, and closure has to be made by the victim, by the person who was assaulted, by the person that this happened to, without ever getting that from their abuser. And I personally find that to be very true, and I find that to be very honest to reality, which is a weird thing to say about a fantasy book. But I thought it was incredibly important that that was sort of how it played out. That Robin Hobb writes the characters in this way is what gives this series the compelling reality that makes it so believable, that you can accept Liveships, and you can accept serpents, and you can accept all of these really incredible magical storylines, because she gets the people right. Liveship Traders as a trilogy is incredible. It is the most compelling trilogy within all of the sub-series of Realm of the Elderlings. It's the most compact, it's the most tightly woven, it's the most successful trilogy, I think, in many ways. And if you read nothing else in the Realm of the Elderlings, Liveships is the one to read, which is really hard, because if you love it enough that you want to then go and read the rest of it, you've spoiled some things. You have to go back to the beginning and read Farseer. So it's a little tricky. It's why I like to say to people, start with Farseer, and only if you really, really, really think you're never going to finish this series, go to Liveships. Because if that doesn't convince you of Robin Hobb's writing ability, nothing will. That trilogy is outstanding. So that was Ship of Destiny, and if you probably didn't like anything I just had to say, but if it was useful hearing what I had to say, hit like. Please comment if you have questions. Please ask in the comments. I always welcome your feedback, and subscribe, because I will continue to talk about the Realm of the Elderlings. And with that, I'm going to love you and leave you. See ya.